This segment of the Alice Stewart Show is brought to you by Aero Plumbing. For all your household or business plumbing needs, call Aero Plumbing at 1-866-PLUMBER or schedule an appointment online at aeroplumbing.net.
Welcome back to the Alice Stewart Show, 7:35, 25 minutes before 8 o'clock. And my favorite segment of the week, Young Guns, where we look at the big political news stories of the day and hear from the younger generation, get their perspective on it. We're joined this morning with Josh Blevins, former Young Democrats of Arkansas president and chairman of Blevins Investment Group, and Jack Avery, Young Republicans of Arkansas chairman and Rich Products Corporation key account manager and star of KERK noon program yesterday. Jack and Josh, great to have you here.
Good morning.
And big midterm elections Tuesday night, and the results overwhelmingly statewide and across the nation, GOP sweep in all these key races. Many say a referendum on the president, others say it's local issues that decided the day. I want to get your thoughts. Tuesday night, elections, polls closed down. Where were you guys, and what were your thoughts as you saw the results come in? Josh, we'll start with you.
Sometimes on the radio or TV, I'm a booster of my party, but most of the time I try to be a pretty fair-minded political analyst, and I want to say it was a complete Republican shutout. I think that the first place that political pundits probably went after the polls closed was to thesource.com to figure out as many ways as possible to say overwhelming defeat without sounding like a broken record. I'm not so interested in national trends where the vicissitudes of political sentiment and a lame duck president and a midterm election during his second term make for a really tough electoral battle. But I am really interested in Arkansas specifically, where there was, I think, an absolute sea change in the political landscape. Just 2 cycles ago, Democrats and the Democratic Party still had the overwhelming dominance that they had since the end of the Civil War, and that began to change on Election Day in 2012, and I think that transformation was completed yesterday.
And Jack, your thoughts. Tuesday night, the results come in, and you've been working hard in the Young Republicans for quite some time, and working hard on getting Republicans elected. But your thoughts as things rolled out on Tuesday.
Well, Josh stole my term, shutout. That's pretty much how I've been describing it up in Northwest Arkansas, because it pretty much was. We swept all the constitutional offices. I was a poll watcher up in Benton County, and I was walking out of the last polling location, got in my car to start driving over to one of the county watch parties. At 7:32, CNN had already called it for Tom Cotton, and I was just floored.
Right.
I did not think that it was going to be called that early, let alone by the margin with which they called it for. So, again, to Josh's point, the resounding victories and the margins with which the Republican Party and our candidates won by is a very strong statement across the state that a lot of the constituents of Arkansas are agreeing with the principles and platforms of our candidates in the party.
I want to ask you both, there's a great assessment on Talk Business. Roby Brock has really looked at the takeaways from the Tuesday's elections, and he mentions Arkansas is no longer a two-party state, despite best efforts by Democrats. Republicans, as he points out, own everything, or at least all the main constitutional offices. But at this point, I want to ask your thoughts on, he says Democrats won't recover quickly. He says this was not a one-cycle loss for Democrats, but culmination of 3 cycles of Republican gains. And he points out the solid conservatives, centrist candidates on their ticket: Mike Ross, Mark Pryor, Nate Steele, Pat Hayes, James Lee Witt, but it just wasn't enough. Your thoughts, Jack, we'll start with you. Well, to the notion Democrats won't recover quickly. Your thoughts?
Well, what's the amount of victories that were realized across the state? It will be a while before. I think it's going to be sustainable on the part of the Republican Party. But now they do have some burdens of reaching across the aisle and governing in a bipartisan fashion and advocating for all Arkansans.
like Josh, I kind of like digging into the numbers. I'm a former analyst. Some of the things that were interesting in that election is if you look at this versus 2010, last time we had a Senate race and a gubernatorial, there were 110,000 more people that voted this election than in 2010. And I was actually having a conversation with my county clerk, and she talked about the number of young folks in Washington County that turned out and voted. So young people are getting involved. They're supporting the Republican Party, and people are turning out in a bigger way than they did 4 years ago. So it is something that the Democratic Party definitely needs to take a look at what went wrong and correction of errors.
Josh?
I think Roby Brock is exactly correct. Roby is not one to make histrionic pronouncements, and I think he's exactly right here. I think that it is going to take Democrats a while to recover. For a long time in Arkansas, the Republican Party had difficulty growing and had difficulty fielding good candidates because they couldn't get people elected. It was a catch-22. If you can't get people elected, you can't build your bench. Democrats potentially face that same problem as we go forward. Not that our ideas, are rejected. They weren't rejected. The biggest idea or the biggest issue that passed on the ballot here in Arkansas by any margin, or the largest margin, was the minimum wage increase, which was opposed by some of the same people that Republicans that were elected on Tuesday night.
All right, so and that's one of the big issues that many people were surprised with is how those ballot initiatives did. We had the minimum wage increase and also the statewide alcohol sales. So those are a lot of things that people are going to be looking at, as well as what Democrats can do to make inroads back to gaining control. And we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to continue this conversation with our young guns, Josh Blevins and Jack Avery. We're going to look at nationally what's going to happen moving forward with President Barack Obama and Senate Majority Leader-to-be Mitch McConnell. Are they going to be able to work together, or there'll be partisan gridlock? We'll talk about that with our young guns coming up right after this. This segment of the program brought to you by Aero Plumbing. For all of your household or business plumbing needs, call Aero Plumbing, 501-588-3200, or go online at aeroplumbing.net.